Hello, welcome to the Bomb Shelter. I am your host for this episode, Kevin Schumm. I couldn't think of a special name this time.
The incredible Kevin Schumm.
Yeah.
And along with him is his sidekick, the mighty Jay McDowell.
The mighty Jay McDowell. Yeah, that works.
That works.
So this is going to be, is this part 3 of our Super Summer Reruns series?
The third and final this summer.
For this summer, yep. Next summer we'll have definitely some more.
Yep.
This time what we're going to do is...
well, we indicated.
Yes.
If you listen to the last show,
we pretty much spoiled it completely. Incredible Hulk, but not the TV series specifically. We're doing one of the TV movies. In fact, the very first one. Called...
The Incredible Hulk Returns.
Dr. David Banner, physician, scientist, searching for a way to tap into the hidden strengths that all humans have. Then an accidental overdose of gamma radiation alters his body chemistry. And now when David Banner grows angry or outraged, a startling metamorphosis occurs. The creature is driven by rage and pursued by an investigative reporter.
Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
The creature is wanted for a murder he didn't commit. David Banner is believed to be dead, and he must let the world think that he is dead until he can find a way to control the raging spirit that dwells within him.
All right, so that is the, not necessarily trailer, but...
Yeah, just the what do you call it? The intro
for the show, because they don't really have trailers for...
Yeah, which they did use on the movie.
Yeah.
I wonder if we, you know what, maybe when we go back in time and record and put that in there, there's probably some on YouTube.
There might be.
Maybe like a, hey, tonight on CBS.
That was either the Tonight on CBS or just the regular beginning to the Incredible Hulk show.
And you'll know once you listen to this.
And you know before we do, as of right
like
now.
Time travel.
It's weird.
It's weird.
Anyway, this is the one with, whether you know it or not from the trailer, this is the one that stars not only the Incredible Hulk, but also Thor.
The mighty Thor.
A version of Thor. Which, just like the Hulk is not necessarily classic Hulk in this.
Yeah.
It's sort of the same with Thor. It's like the not so mighty Thor.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty appropriate description of him.
Yeah. So how do we even go about doing this one? It's basically, if you've seen the Incredible Hulk show...
it's a continuation of the show.
It's a continuation. It's not its own little universe. He's basically, in this one, he's found a way to possibly cure himself with...
And he's built another contraption to, under the guise of working for this company and helping them out and everything.
Yeah.
But he actually kind of set it up to work for them, but also to hopefully cure him of his little malady.
Yeah. And of course, now, according to the Internet Movie Database, his name is David Banner, but in this, he's kind of using a code name, and thankfully he gets a name that's so tricky that you never figure it out.
I don't know how they would find him anywhere.
Yeah, because instead of David Banner, it's David Banyan. So apparently you're only allowed to change like a couple letters.
I'm wondering if his next name will be Bruce Banyan.
Yeah. Or just Bruce Banner, because it's not David, right?
Well, it was David. I think it said on the opening credits, it was his grave marker was David Bruce Banner.
David Bruce Banner, yeah.
Because that was always a bone of contention with the comic book.
With the comics, because it sounded too...
he's Bruce Banner in the comics.
In the comics, yeah. But I guess it was a little too feminine of a name for like a tough guy. I think I've read that.
Maybe. I know there was a reason for it, but they did incorporate the David in, if I remember correctly, they incorporated it into the comic book universe by making that his middle name.
Yeah.
So it's like Bruce David Banner.
So in this, in the TV show, they reversed that again, I guess, right?
They did that first. Yeah. And then with the comics, they did it because people were like, well, is it David or Bruce?
Yeah.
So
now they kind of put the two worlds together, I guess.
So that was a meaningless tangent.
Yeah, anyway. It's just funny how, he changes his name, but he can't change it to like Steve Rogers
Yeah.
or something like that
Yeah.
for an example.
Hey, you're not Captain
has
America.
to still be the same first name, and last name has to be so close that literally
Yeah.
only like 2 letters changed.
Yeah, it's like, so what's your name? David.
Yeah. So yeah, tangent, but that's okay. We're just to explain this. We ate a giant pizza, half and half.
Yeah, what kind of pizza and root beer
beer.
drunk right now?
And then watched a show. And if any indication of how good this is, probably 10 minutes or so into the movie, there's a fight between Hulk and Thor, and I fell asleep. So that's how
this is a
exciting
new
this is.
record for Kevin.
Yes.
Because he always falls asleep.
And
but
it's
he usually
also
waits a little longer.
What was it, like 1
yeah,
in the afternoon or
it's
something?
nap time.
Yeah.
So, okay, so yeah, so
Okay, there we go. Back to the
movie at hand.
Yeah.
Basically, I guess this takes place. I don't remember when the show ended, like 80s, like maybe 82 or something.
Yeah.
And this takes place in 88.
Yeah.
And it takes place in real time, so it is 6 years later. It's not just 2 weeks down the road.
Yeah.
And
so gosh,
is this the part you fell asleep?
the whole thing is the part I fell asleep. But basically, so here's the characters. You got, just like always, you got David Banner.
Mm-hmm.
Forget his code name. You've got
The Hulk.
you got the Hulk, which is also him, but it's played by Lou Ferrigno instead of
Yes.
Bill Bixby. You've got what is Blake's first name again?
Don.
Yeah.
Donald Blake.
Donald Blake is sort of this geeky looking guy who apparently knew Bruce from before. Bruce is like, or not
Yeah.
Bruce, David. Sorry, comics. Is his favorite scientist, I think he says. Right?
Yeah, he was a doctor also.
Yeah.
And then he went, according to the story, went on an expedition because he likes Vikings.
He likes Vikings.
And so he went on an expedition way north.
Yeah.
And wound up finding Thor's
Hammer.
well, not just Thor's hammer, but Thor's sarcophagus.
Yeah.
Because apparently in this, Thor isn't a god.
Yeah.
He was a king.
Yeah.
But
they've changed quite a few things.
Yeah. But he wasn't allowed into Valhalla because he was a jerk.
Yeah.
And Odin said, nope, not until you, kind of make some reparations.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how he expected him to do that by sealing him in a sarcophagus and leaving him
way
there.
up north. Yeah.
But hey, I'm not a Norse god.
So yeah. So you were explaining to me I wasn't as much of a Hulk guy, or I'm sorry, a Thor guy.
Or Marvel guy.
But
period.
apparently in the comics, at least originally, Donald Blake was
the alter ego of Thor.
Not in this. There's clearly separate.
Yeah, they're
characters.
two different people. In the comics, Thor, because he was a jerk, Odin sent him back to Earth and put him in the crippled body of a man who went by the name of Donald Blake.
Yeah.
And Blake would use, I'm assuming at some point Odin said, okay, well, you can be Thor, but you got to do good.
Yeah.
And Blake would take his cane and smack it on the ground and by the power of grace call himself into Thor. And he had an alter ego, and now he doesn't. He totally did away with that. Over the 20 years.
So yeah, in the TV movie version of it though, they're separate characters completely, and it's almost like we were talking about it, almost like a genie situation.
Yeah.
Donald Blake holds up the hammer and says Odin.
Yeah.
Actually screams it.
Yeah, yells
apparently.
it really loud.
And sparks and electricity and echoing and all this, and then
Yeah.
Thor appears like a genie almost.
Yeah. And always in the same position, that
Yeah.
weird, kind
Yeah.
of head back and
So
roadie laughter.
Yeah, so you got David Banner played by Bill Bixby. You've got his alter ego, the Hulk, not Hulk. Yeah, that's what never mind. The Hulk played by Lou Ferrigno, just like in the regular TV series. You've got Donald Blake played by a guy named Steve Levitt, which I sort of recognized him, although
Yeah, he looked like that guy, but
when I looked him up, I couldn't think specifically of like where I seen him.
Yeah,
before.
his resume wasn't very extensive. So
Yeah. Who else do we have?
we
here?
have Jack McGee again, played by Jack Colvin.
That's the guy from the intro that says, "Don't
David,
make me angry."
David tells him,
Yeah, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Yeah, the reporter that dogged
Yeah.
the Hulk cross country.
David Banner's love interest in this is Maggie Shaw, played by someone named Lee Purcell.
Purcell. Yeah.
And she sort of was I'm not well known, but she looked really familiar to both of us.
Yeah, there are three people in this movie that we pretty much decided we're not going to go deep into their IMDb. they're pretty much going to just be all lumped together as that guy and that gal.
Yeah.
Because if you watch TV in the 70s and 80s, you saw these people.
Yeah. So you've seen her, even if you don't know her name, you'll just say, oh yeah, she looks familiar from something.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have Charles Napier playing Mike Fausch.
Yeah. He's that guy.
He's that guy.
Major that guy.
Yeah. He looks like 102-year-old David Keith.
Yeah.
And yeah, plays a bad guy with a really bad Cajun accent.
Yeah.
In fact, at one point he says, "I guarantee it," and it was really bad.
Yeah.
And
that's why he's that guy and not
a leading
the person that you know his name.
And then Tim Thomerson is the other
great name.
That guy.
Yeah.
Who played Jack LeBeau.
And they're basically the same character, just they look slightly different and have different accents.
Yeah, and he's actually the head bad guy.
Yeah.
Kind of pulling the strings and everything.
I was wondering as I was watching if there's some sort of fighting, like, hey, why do you get the lead role? We're basically the same guy.
Well, you were that guy in that movie. Oh yeah. Okay. Well, I'll be that guy in this movie.
Kind of like when we take turns hosting.
Yeah.
We basically do the same job, but it's basically who starts talking first.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. And then we had as Thor.
Oh yeah.
Eric Allen Kramer.
Yep.
As Eric Kramer in this one. Billed as.
And before this, I was saying, wasn't Thor played by Reb Brown? Because basically this guy looks like Reb Brown.
He kind of did.
He's just a
better actor.
Yeah, a better actor and, maybe 10, 20 years younger.
Yeah, because Reb Brown was a little more.
Yeah, Reb Brown's career is pretty close to over by this time. And looks like, when we looked it up, this guy, Eric Allen Kramer, it looks like his career had just began. I think this was his third thing.
Yeah, and he played just kind of a lot of
little pieces and
background guys, bikers and stuff like that. He was on Roseanne one episode that looking in IMDb, I can remember the episode. Just a few other shows from the
most
80s
likely
and 90s.
Paid some tough guy in each.
Pretty much because he was a pretty big guy.
He's a big guy, yeah. And there's obviously other characters in this, but those are the only ones you really need to care about.
Yeah,
they're the only ones that really matter.
Well, we have the Lamberts too. They're the people that own the company that David Boone is working for.
Yeah. So, should we just go through? I mean, the story's pretty simple.
Yeah, pretty simple. Batman is trying to cure himself of the Hulk, and he's just about to do it, and then...
and what you do to cure yourself of Hulk is you put a compact disc, which was very new at the time.
And apparently was Wham's Make It Big.
We decided it was Wham's Make It Big. and there's this timer that counts down until whatever's going to happen happens to cure him of Hulk disease or whatever.
Yeah.
Hulkitis, yeah. And then Donald Blake shows up right when it gets down to 2 or 1. And
yeah. When the timer had one of those faulty time displacement issues that movies have, where it was like 8, 7, and then go over and watch, and do something, and then 7, 6, then go watch him do something again. And it takes about 5 seconds, 6, 5, that one of those things. Yeah. Now, it's kind of his own fault though. He could have set the timer at like 10 seconds instead of like 45.
Countdown, yeah.
He's like just sitting there. He looks bored almost. He's like, okay, and he keeps looking up at it.
Yeah,
keeps looking. It's like, dude, you set the timer.
Yeah. So right before Jitterbug starts, Donald Blake comes in and ejects the CD and ruins the whole thing.
Yeah.
And
then he explains how he came across Thor.
Yeah.
He shows him Thor, and then
they fight.
That's
where I fell asleep.
What is funny, not just Kevin falling asleep, but it's kind of funny because in the Avengers movies, Hulk and Thor kind of duke it out because they're the two most powerful.
Yeah.
And of course, in the Avengers movie, Thor enjoys it. And in this, Thor was very much...
Yeah, sort of the same idea, right?
Yeah, he's like, wow, you're a worthy adversary. Let's go and drink beer. And then there's the little subplot that kind of drives the whole movie is Zach Lambert, I guess is the younger brother of Joshua Lambert, the guy who owns the Joshua Lambert Institute.
Yeah.
He kind of feels he's been living in his brother's shadow for too long, and he knows that the gamma radiation... Who's can be weaponized.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to get it to somebody who will take it and then give him money for it. And more hijinks ensue, and then it's just a whole bunch of people beating each other up and shooting.
It's a blur. I was gonna say the what you just said about the Lamberts. I remember the name Lambert, but when you're kind of semi-conscious for the entire movie, you don't pick up on things that like that.
little details like
plots, like the plot of the entire movie.
Now, I will say that apparently the bad guys had quite the budget because they managed to get a LA County Sheriff's helicopter and uniforms and a van.
Yeah, to pretend like they were.
Yeah, at one point to try and take money out.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much the gist of it. And then, of course, there's the little subplot. Valerian lives with his girlfriend, with Maggie Shaw.
Yeah.
But he hasn't told her everything. He told her he has a monster.
Yeah.
And she takes that to mean he's got something dark in his past that he doesn't want to tell her about.
Yeah.
Not
a literal.
Yeah, not a literal monster. And he won't tell her, though. He's just like, just don't worry about it. It's just something that hasn't reared its ugly head in 2 years. I'm good. I think of you, and it goes away.
Yeah.
And she finally gets to see it, and it's kind of,
you really
literal
mean
monster,
an actual monster,
real monster. Okay. And then she gets kidnapped. Hijinks ensue, and he leaves to the sound of do 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 do.
One of the saddest songs ever written.
It came on when we turned the DVD on, and it's the whole going, and then
with that music,
music playing. It's like, oh, it's sad.
Yeah. So it's here's something. As a kid, and probably you also as a kid, loved this show, right?
Yeah.
The series, The Incredible Hulk, and a year or so ago, I think it was on Netflix or something. I'm like, oh wow, I should rewatch that show. I love that show, and I made it through. I think maybe 2 or 3 episodes at the most.
And you're like, I shouldn't keep watching this show. This is awful.
It was awful, and even that I remember after the first one thinking this isn't good, but I should give it another chance. And no, it's still not good.
Yeah, this movie was faster on the action than the series was, because the series we were talking about, the series was very formulaic. Something happens, kind of almost A-team-ish.
Yep.
Banner, whatever name he's using, comes into town. Somebody needs help. He helps them.
There's some sort of trouble.
Then McGee finds him, and then he, when he thinks he can settle down somewhere, then he, gets chased off, and then the music plays.
Yeah.
And this one, it moved a little quicker because we got Thor within probably the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And their fight.
Yeah.
And then there was just a lot more action in this one.
Yeah. I think it was after the series, right?
Yes.
So maybe they thought we got to really wow them if this is going to make
it. And being a TV movie too, they probably were like, yeah, we got to be able to wrap this all up. But, the show they did too, but there's probably reasons.
Yeah.
Now, one thing we didn't mention is apparently this was a backdoor pilot.
Oh yeah.
For a potential Thor series.
TV series, yeah.
And so I'm assuming it would have been Donald Blake and Thor driving, the back countries of, or back roads of the American Midwest and fighting crimes.
And I can see that being a show. It just would be a really horrible show.
It'd be pretty bad.
And it wouldn't even last one season.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. It would pretty much be Blake drives in, something happens, he pulls the Thor hammer out, calls Thor up.
Yeah.
They, do whatever they do. He makes some weird, goofy comments.
Yeah.
And
drink some beer.
Yeah, it'll be a fish out of water thing, because he'll be like, oh, this modern world, and then he'll
never ever get used to. Even.
Yeah. 5 seasons in, what is this car you speak of? And then he'll be put back in the hammer.
Yeah.
Which that I didn't quite understand. Basically, they're trying to make it seem like David Blake's problem is similar to Banner's. But of course it's not, because as Banner explains to him, you can control yours. I can't.
I think as a series, though, they probably had to come up with some sort, and if this was supposed to be at the beginning of it, they had to come up with something that could be week to week.
Yeah.
And a character like Thor, not like when he's out of the genie bottle.
Yeah.
How does that guy exist in a TV world, you know? So
Yeah.
they probably had to come up with this scheme to kind of like make it possible to be a series, maybe.
Or make there a reason, because
Yeah.
Thor understood that he was being punished, and kind of had to be at Blake's whim. Although Blake doesn't abuse it or anything,
Yeah.
but he kind of acts like he understands that. But then again, it's like, you're Thor. Just don't give him back the hammer and say, I'm not going back in there. So
Yeah, I know.
Didn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's. I don't know how high their hopes were for a series, but
Apparently not very, because we didn't get one.
we didn't get one, and it just there's no way. I mean, I know there's a lot of stupid shows out there, but I can't imagine that being successful at all.
No, not the least.
Yeah.
So that's the gist of it, and we do get again, Mr. McGee is brought back in, giving some of the weirdest lines. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
If there was a press meeting, and something's going on, and some guy walked up and go, "What about the big green monster the people saw?
Yeah.
I have documents," and the police would be like, "Yes, sir. Okay, can we get him out of here?"
Yeah.
You
All
know?
the other reporters are asking basic questions like, someone was abducted
Names
or
and-
yeah.
And then they're like, all of a sudden, and then he leaves. It's like he pulls a pin on the grenade, tosses it, and then walks off. And they're like,
yeah.
"What about this?" And the police officer's like, "Oh, no, I don't know." No,
Yeah.
it was really goofy.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, the movie just very basic.
Yeah.
Very-
I mean, it's really just a little bit longer version of an episode of The Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
And unlike probably any episode of the series, had another like super powered.
yeah,
person
because I
in
don't
it.
think there were any other. I don't remember there ever being
Yeah, I don't either.
any superheroes or anything in it.
Yeah.
So, hey, you know what I forgot to do?
What's that?
I forgot to set the timer.
It's okay. I got a timer right here.
So, is it time for break?
We could take a
Or-
break right now.
Okay.
And we'll come back. And I got some ideas of what we should talk about next.
Hey, that would have been something nice to tell me before we started recording.
I know. We'll be right back.
See ya.
Dr. Banner, melted by gamma rays, turned into the Hulk.
E.T. and Glamour Race.
Wrecking the town with the power of a bull.
Ain't no monster clown who is as lovable.
As ever-loving Hulk. Hulk.
All right. And we are back.
Yay.
Hooray. So one thing that was very, very different, and of course as a kid I didn't see this. I did read the comic books of, not really Thor, but Hulk. But clearly in the comic books, Hulk was a lot stronger than he was on this TV show. Mm-hmm. But now, modern day, you can even say, if you're not a comic book reader, you maybe have seen the the Hulk
You've probably
movies,
seen
or
the movies,
or the Thor movie or the Avengers movies. And obviously the power levels are astronomically different.
Yeah.
So-
they were not spot on.
Yeah.
in their depictions.
And some of that may have been, I mean, a TV movie in the early 80s. I mean, how much can you realistically show, Lou Ferrigno throwing like, pushing a building down or something like that?
Yeah, because in even in the Hulk movie, but I didn't collect comics until the early 80s.
Yeah.
But I've read back far enough. The Hulk, I mean, one of his powers, he could jump a mile. He just
Yeah.
jump and nearly fly.
Yeah.
And do his big thunderclap thing, and
Yeah.
then just he was unstoppable.
Yeah.
And this one, he was taken down by a dart gun.
Yeah. There's a whole action sequence. I think both of us at the same time kind of realized, like, I mean, we knew the power level wasn't up there, but this
Yeah.
one action sequence is like,
I mean,
this
he's like bending guns and bending pipes, but then got taken out by a pipe.
yeah.
Or not by
A dart.
A dart, sorry.
Yeah. So like
Bending
a
pipe.
what do you call that?
Like a trank.
A tranquilizer dart.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, but he's being shot with bullets, and those they don't show them bounce off, but he's
but a
not
lot
getting
of
hurt.
you see a lot of the ricochets behind him.
Yeah.
But you got to assume, I mean, they were like 15 feet away. You got to
gotta-
assume some of them
yeah.
weren't hitting, unless they were stormtroopers or Cobra
Yeah.
troopers.
But yeah, the dart goes into him. You actually see Hulk blood.
Yeah.
It's red.
Surprisingly.
And it actually makes him, I don't think he falls all the way asleep, but he gets kind of woozy and kind of falls down.
Yeah, he kind of just staggers him a little bit.
Yeah, Hulk in comics and Hulk in the movie world, unless it was some super special dart made by some, by Doctor Doom or something.
Yeah.
It would have just bounced off like a bullet. Or
he has been taken out before. He
Yeah.
can be knocked out, but it takes a lot more than a dart.
than a dart, yeah. And they were shooting darts at him and Bruce or David Banner's
Maggie.
girlfriend.
Yeah.
The same darts, you're assuming.
Yeah.
So it knocked her out. Okay, that makes sense. She's just a regular person. But then he turns into Hulk. They shoot the very same dart at him, and it takes him out. It's just like...
Well, no. Okay,
it?
I take that back. It just occurred to me. They shot him when he was still Banner.
When he was Banner, yeah.
So that works.
Maybe, yeah, that works.
And I guess he kind of pulled... when he turned, but he still had it in, so he pulled it out.
Yeah.
So that makes sense that it
But
could
once
work.
he's Hulk, it shouldn't really matter.
It should have
anymore.
been just
Yeah.
completely dissipated in his
Yeah.
system. See, the thing with tranquilizer guns that people don't realize, you hear about, like out here in Southern California, sometimes we have mountain lion and bear attacks.
Oh, yeah.
And what usually happens, unfortunately, for the animal is they are exterminated because it's thought they lose their fear of people. So, sorry, there's no taking you far enough away
Yeah,
that you
you're
won't
just kind of-
interact.
Yeah.
The thing with tranquilizers, though, there's a science to it. You have to know how much the animal weighs, and you can't. One tranquilizer does not work the same on all different animals.
Yeah.
So that's why that happens. So in this, I mean, those were some big darts too that they used, and they were shooting from a helicopter from like at least maybe a couple 100 feet away. So that was pretty impressive. But they very well could have killed the woman if it was too much.
Yeah.
And Hulk, he even in the Avengers, he said he tried to kill himself, and then the big green guy spit the bullet out. So
Yeah.
he heals pretty quick.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of the weird thing about tranquilizers in TV shows. But now that I think about it, he hadn't changed yet, so
He
it
hadn't
did make
changed it.
sense.
That's true.
And
Now, I can imagine him being angry, being shot with that, and that causing him to not change because he falls asleep before he gets angry enough to change.
yeah, it depends on how quick he changes.
That's
though.
true,
So
yeah.
I don't know that there's ever been a real definitive how long this transformation
That's
takes.
true, yeah.
So
I think sometimes it's faster or slower.
yeah, some than others, yeah.
Yeah. Now here's completely unrelated to Hulk, but related to darts. I've had this fear. I've never been shot with a trank dart before, but I'm not really afraid of the dart or falling asleep. I'm afraid of falling on the dart.
Oh.
So yeah, if you ever, anyone listening or you, Jay, ever shoot me with a dart,
Okay.
please make sure I fall back. If you shoot me in the front, I want to fall back. If you shoot me in the back, I want to fall forward.
Okay,
'cause
so
I don't want to land on the dart.
I'll shoot you and then kick you in the opposite direction.
Opposite direction.
So you
Just,
fall. Okay.
It's fine. I just don't want to fall in the dark because that would really hurt.
Well, see, I have a similar story
You
about
do?
that.
Okay.
We got time.
All right.
I was in a really nasty accident the day after my son was born, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
I was in a rollover accident. I got T-boned, rolled over, bad,
Wow.
and got pulled out of the car. And obviously, I survived. I pulled through. But when they took me to the ER in the ambulance, I was kind of out of it. And then they got me to the ER, and they're cleaning me up, and they took the IV out of my arm. And when they took it out, it was curved.
Oh.
And that nearly made me sick.
Yeah.
And it turned out what it was, it's a plastic catheter that they put in. They pop that in, and then they can attach the IV tube to
Yeah.
it. But I didn't know that.
Oh, okay.
And it almost made for another problem in the ER.
Yikes.
So anyway, Hulk.
Okay, back to Hulk. Well, we kind of discussed, during our breaks, we discussed things, and we kind of discussed, like, there's not a lot to this, so we're going to do a little more of the fun, personal stuff this time, because there's just not a lot of
lots of
plot to
tangents in
talk
this
about.
one.
So, no, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, well, going back to the when we were talking about the power levels, though, but in the comics, the Thor and Hulk are basically the most powerful you can get without being
Like
an eternal
Yeah,
or
some-
a god of some sort.
yeah.
Basically, the Hulk, he starts getting mad, and he just gets more and more
He's
and more.
basically unlimited. I don't know.
Pretty much.
I mean, you can't really test unlimited, but
Yeah.
I guess there hasn't been a limit to it yet.
Yeah,
or
there's
something.
no upper limit.
Yeah.
And then Thor, I think they've never touched on his ultimate
Yeah.
power level.
Yeah.
And we're talking the original Thor, not Thorette, not,
Yeah.
Beta Ray Bill or anybody like that. But yeah, I don't think they've ever actually measured his upper limit. So he's pretty much
Yeah.
there is none. And even in the movies, he gets beat up a little bit, but
Yeah.
he still, manages to.
Yeah, they're pretty. I mean, I don't know if they're equal in strength, but they're in the same realm, probably.
Yeah.
I remember I had a comic book, and I don't remember which one. I have too many to remember. But in the back of one of the comic books, they had this little fun section where they showed, like, it was Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
They showed the power levels of, like, strength they were talking about,
Yeah.
not, like, overall.
Oh, the classes. Those were in the Marvel universes that I gave you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it had the class levels.
Yeah, and I don't remember now if it was Thor and Hulk were the same, or Thor was one below Hulk and Hulk was at the top. But I do remember, like, I think it was Hulk. It was either Hulk and Thor, and then the Thane was like a level below them, or something like that. There was a clear distinction there, but they were real close as far as
Yeah.
strength goes, I think.
Yeah, what?
According to that, though, I mean,
Yeah, and
that's
that was
one writer probably.
Well, those were from back in the 80s, and so things have changed. But they had
Things always.
They had a list of everybody, because for non-comic collectors, the Guide to the Marvel Universe was basically like the DC Who's Who, where just you had Spider-Man, and this is his story, and his history, and his powers, and his web shooters, and all that. It's really cool. And in the back of it, it would have they base people's strength on classes, and basically a class 10 means you lift 10 tons.
Yeah, that's
25 is 25. So Spider-Man was, I think, 25. I think Thing was about 45 or 50.
Yeah.
And then there was class 100, which was 100 tons, which really, I read somewhere else that it was estimated Hulk could lift like something like 1 trillion. I think we mentioned it on another show.
It almost seems like the somewhere I read, like the 100 class meant 100 or more, or something like that. It wasn't just like 101. Nope, can't do that.
Yeah.
Was,
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So somewhere it was like he moved I think the most he's moved is like 1 trillion tons, and somebody's like, "What weighs 1 trillion tons?"
We had this discussion. I don't know if it was on the podcast or not, but we had a discussion with Superman. And Hulk,
Yeah, it
right?
was. It was. Yeah, we talked about it.
And I was watching a couple things, and of course I collected comics for a certain time period. But as Jay just mentioned, comics change. Superman has been unrealistically, well, always unrealistically, but unbelievably powerful, and then sort of like kind of powerful too, and
then dead.
Yeah. and Hulk has had different sort of. Probably based on who's writing him.
He's
at the
actually
time.
been split from Banner before.
Yeah,
he's someone
I
else
that.
right now.
Yeah.
So,
but I remember whatever video I watched, someone was sort of going through the history, like from the beginning of Hulk and from the beginning of Superman, and showing like, here's how Superman was really powerful during the early 80s or something like that, or I don't remember specifically, but yeah, both of them had been into these realms of just like, how do you even measure that way?
Yeah,
anymore?
you can't write a story anymore because Superman is like we were talking about in Super Friends. It's like, why did the Super Friends bother showing up? Superman could just go and mop everything up and nothing.
Yeah.
So, and then Thor, in this movie, this TV movie, he was fairly underpowered.
Yeah.
He was really strong, but his hammer, Mjolnir, he never fired lightning anything. When he would hit things with it, there would be like little lightning bolts.
Yeah.
But he never summoned lightning or did the hit the ground with it and make an earthquake. In fact, when he threw it, it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
In the movies, Thor throws a hammer and
like an arrow almost.
Yeah.
Straight at it, something.
Yeah, and there's one scene where Thor throws a hammer at Hulk, and it hits him, but it just looks like somebody threw a plastic hammer.
Yeah,
because
like
it just
if I threw
goes,
one at you.
Yeah, because
it's gonna flop and hit.
It like went sideways and landed full face, boom, on face and handle, boom, right up against him.
Yeah.
Instead of wham. So it was just really comically funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was definitely a different take on the two.
That one scene with the darts right after that, both Hulk. Now imagine this in a modern, if you will, Avengers movie. There's a helicopter with some bad guys in it, and Hulk and Thor want to stop the helicopter. How long would that take?
Shorter than it took you to describe the scenario.
That, yeah. Well, in this, it takes both Hulk and Thor hanging from the what are those called? The rails? The landing rails or whatever of the helicopter for a little while till they can't hold on any longer, I guess.
And then they let go. Yeah.
And then they kind of shake their fists like, we'll get you next time, helicopter. But it's like, Yeah. Okay. So that was another example. Of like,
Yeah.
This is a very different
It was
world.
like, what are you guys gonna do? I mean, at the very least, Thor could have hung out with one hand, gotten the hammer, and like thrown it.
Yeah.
It would have been stupid because it would
Yeah.
have killed because Maggie was on there.
Yeah.
But he could have easily taken
But
it down.
either one of them could have jumped up, grabbed the helicopter, and like forced it to the ground.
Yeah.
Not strong or not hard enough to kill people, but just to get them off.
But there was an extra probably because Hulk puts on. I'd say he's supposed to be probably 600-700 pounds.
Yeah.
And Thor, isn't supposed to be a lightweight, so that's nearly 1,000 pounds on a helicopter.
Yeah.
It should have actually started coming down because helicopters,
They have a weight limit.
they do.
And it was full. If I remember correctly,
Yeah.
it was full already.
full of bad
like,
guys and a
passenger-wise.
hostage. Yeah.
Yeah.
So ideally they could have taken it down.
Just
but
with
yeah,
their weight. Just
they-
because I weigh a lot. Because I have muscles.
yeah, which is not an issue for us.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
that was pretty funny too. It's like, this is
yeah,
not.
because they
Thor
stood
and
on the
Hulk.
beach and just shook their fists.
Shook their
like,
fists. Like, oh, that helicopter. I can't stop it. Sometimes I can stop a small car, but not a helicopter.
not a helicopter. Curse you, physics.
So it was funny.
So yes. So, but yeah, and granted it was the 80s and it was, the effects were limited and stuff.
Yeah.
So
TV money, TV effects, TV
Yeah.
budget,
and the scale of the story was so small because these weren't super powered bad guys that were
Yeah.
fighting.
They're just guys with guns.
Yeah, pretty
And
much,
darts.
and really bad aim. So,
Yeah.
So I do have though.
Jay has a little story he'd like to tell.
I have a Lou Ferrigno story.
A Lou Ferrigno story who, if you don't know, plays the Incredible Hulk version
Yeah.
or the part of the
in
character.
this, yeah.
And then we'll wrap up after that.
So one year I went to it used to be called Kamikaze, now it's LA Comic Con, and Lou Ferrigno was there doing signatures, and I brought the very DVD that we watched
Wow.
because I was going to have him sign it for you, Kevin. I
Aw.
was going to have him sign it for you, and I felt bad there was nobody in his line. Edward James Olmos was there.
Aw.
What's the woman who played Dottie in Pee-wee's Big Adventure was
Oh, yeah.
there, and they all had lines. And Lou
Not Lou
Ferrigno,
Ferrigno, why?
nothing.
I would line up for Lou Ferrigno first.
Well-
if it was those three choices.
I did, and I was.
Yeah.
I was first, and I was the line. And so I go up to him, and of course he's I think mostly deaf.
Yeah, I think so.
So I go up there and I say, it's nice to meet you, and can I get this signed? And this was my first convention also, so I didn't know the etiquette and I don't know
Yeah.
how these things work. And he goes, pictures are $40 if you want to, take your own picture. That's $45 if you want to, sign it. And I said, well, I've got just a DVD here, my own DVD, and just like a signature on it. And he goes, well, that's $65.
Wow.
And he was my first stop, and I had a limited budget.
Yeah.
So I politely said, no, thank you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if it's the beginning of the thing, it's like I can't spend all my money in one spot.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't like Kevin that much.
I need to eat lunch.
Yeah. I need to buy Star Wars crap.
Yeah.
And so he did explain it, though. He said, I'm sorry that it's that much, but people get this and then they put it on eBay. And, so
Yeah.
I've got to at least get somewhat of a cut. But he had a handler there, and she was kind of, talking for him too, but he wouldn't look me in the eye. He just looked like he was having a bad day.
Yeah.
And so then I just said, okay, well, thank you. And I walked off, and the
Yeah.
music played.
It played. Wow.
And I turned around, took my camera out, and took a picture of him.
Oh.
So
Did he chase you down and
he went,
ask for? Yeah.
and started chasing me. And so there you go. And then I did have a friend who met him at another convention and took a picture with him. It was just super cool, and shook his hand and everything. So I just must have called him a bad day.
Yeah. I mean, and we all have bad days.
We do.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Oh.
The Incredible Hulk
Lou
returns.
Ferrigno. I've never met a. I don't think I've ever
met a
made
superhero.
A superhero, even a TV one. But overall, I mean, it was besides the part where I fell asleep. But a lot of that I'm going to blame on pizza and root beer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And being me.
Yes, and the fact that it's a movie, and
that I was sitting on the couch.
Kevin is hypnotized immediately by movies.
But it was fun to watch. It's funny.
It wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
I could see where the Thor show would have gone. It would have been much more
Oh yeah.
comedic, lighthearted. instead, because the Hulk, it was more, dark and somber.
Yeah,
and,
you're always sad at the end. So once again, he has to move.
And they play that music.
Yeah.
And this, it seemed, I mean, there was one time when he walked up and he's wearing a hoodie and we're like, yo, bro, I want to surf. You know, 'cause that's what he looked like. You know?
He did.
Could almost see that happening,
Yeah, in a future episode.
Forsooth, I want to try this surfing on board.
Yeah.
So he gets out there and this thing. I could see that happening.
Yeah.
But I don't see how they could have maintained it for very long.
Yeah.
But this movie was fun.
It was fun. We read a couple reviews real quick before as we were watching it, and someone said that this was the best of the Hulk TV movies, which...
Because there were 3 of them.
There were 3 of them, yeah. And, I mean... I don't know. I guess this was the best one.
We watched the Daredevil. We watched the Daredevil years ago,
once, yeah,
and it was not good.
Yeah,
and I'm sure I saw the Hulk dies or whatever it was called, Death of the Incredible Hulk. I'm sure I saw that when it came out. And I don't know. This one was fun.
It was fun enough. So, I mean, I'm not going to watch it again anytime soon.
No.
Yeah, but it was fun. It's fun for the purposes of what we're doing here, because we're not here to get deep into the criticism of the greatest movies and TV series ever made.
This is not highbrow movies.
Yeah, we're looking for stuff like this to kind of laugh at and have fun with.
Listening to the wrong podcast if you want Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of forgot over the last couple of movies, but Our Good and Bad and the Ugly. Do we have it?
We did. Yeah. Let's do that for this time, though.
So okay. So the good. Well, it was fun.
It was fun. I laughed a lot.
Yeah. And even though it wasn't Red Brown.
Yeah, dang it.
He was still Mr. Kramer was still a serviceable Thor.
Yep.
The bad. Well, I can't say that the power and stuff was bad just because it's a different. I view it as a different universe.
I think if they could have done it, they probably would have. It just wasn't an option. They did what they could.
Yeah, it wasn't an option to get a super powered bad guy in there. So.
Yeah.
And so bad. I don't know. It was a little goofy in some parts. The bar scene.
Oh yeah.
Which we were waiting for Pee Wee Herman to show up.
Yeah, it looked like the same bar from the Pee Wee Herman one.
It looked like Satan's helpers
with the motorcycles parked outside.
Yeah. And then he comes out with them kind of like Pee Wee.
Yeah,
he's hanging on their shoulders and they're because now he made friends with them and everything after drinking and carousing with their women.
Yeah.
So it was that was a little over the top.
Yeah.
But
I think they're trying to differentiate the tone of what Thor would be like. Maybe trying to say hey, don't you want a Thor series? Look how fun this would be.
Well, and that was the whole point of that.
Yeah.
That scene too was he told Donald Blake, he's like, dude, I've been locked up in that hammer.
Yeah.
I've not been dead. My spirit has been alive. I'm hungry. I'm thirsty, and I want a woman.
Yeah.
And I want to fight a guy.
Yeah. Laugh with a woman, fight with a man, and
eat and drink.
Eat and drink,
yeah. And so he does all those. And so I guess it's kind of to show that, hey, Thor's he's a fun guy. And, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so the ugly. Man, Jack Colvin looked a lot like Steve Buscemi's dad.
Yeah. Yeah, my thought was Steve Buscemi and Willem Dafoe had a baby.
Yeah. Yeah, stepped into the Brundlefly machine.
Yeah, and they mix them up. Oh, there's Jack Colvin.
Yep. There's Steve Buscemi. Like, Daddy. But yeah, nothing really ugly about this.
No, it's exactly what you'd expect from a mid-'80s, TV series,
TV movie. Yeah.
TV movie. Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't as bad as the '70s Spider-Man and Captain America.
I'd love to watch one of those sometime. Maybe next summer.
We need to find one of those. Yeah. And it wasn't as bad as Captain America with Red Brown in it actually. So, yeah, there really wasn't any ugly to this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's fine. It was perfect for our purposes.
Oh, I got it.
What's that?
Lou Ferrigno's wig.
That
was pretty
there
hideous.
We go. So Lou Ferrigno's wig, part of the trivia that we found on this was Lou Ferrigno's wig was a little bit different in this TV movie than it had been in the series because his hearing loss had become worse. So he was wearing just to perform, he needed a hearing aid to be able to hear what was going on, and they needed to cover that up. Of course.
Yeah, this was before we had the little in-ear hearing aids, and so they're a little bigger and a little more noticeable. So
wig looked a little bit goofy, but
yeah. But there you go.
All right.
So wigs.
Wigs.
That's our takeaway.
Hooray for
Is
wigs.
Wigs, yay.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. Now, this would be the third and final
For this summer.
episode for this summer of the Super Summer Returns.
Reruns.
Reruns. Sorry, not returns.
Well, you're reading it and you couldn't get
I know. I can't read.
it. Okay, well. That sounds like another movie.
Yeah. But this is super fun, and I'm excited already for next summer, thinking about possibilities. So that'll be fun.
We initially, our idea was it was going to be these super 70s summer reruns.
Yeah.
And then we realized that some of our movies weren't available, or our shows weren't available.
Yeah, so we picked the ones that we could get to, or that we could watch.
Yeah, and that still kind of fit that, because technically, the Hulk was 70s, and this just was a continuation of it. So next summer, we'll have to figure out what we do next summer.
We'll figure it out. But yeah, we have some. I think we already have the next 2 months planned.
I think so, because 2 months from now is
October, which is always special.
Yes, very special.
But I'm excited about both the next 2 that we're going to be doing.
Yes, most definitely.
I'm very excited.
And we won't give any spoilers.
No spoilers this time, like I did last time.
No hints. No incredibly green tinged hints.
No green tinged hints. So
there you go. So
hey ho, should we go? Let's go, or should that be the end of this?
Trying to think how to go with that one. And
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say, see you later.
Bye.